Hello and welcome. My name is Tyler. I am hosting this week alongside
Just me.
that guy.
hmm
Who would you expect besides the two of us? By who would you? I mean, you as in me, because I'm the only one that listens to this thing. So that's fine. We're gonna talk about some video games, a video game in particular, give or take a couple more. So, Justin,
Hello.
what have you been playing?
Um, Besides from my average dosages of Dead by Daylight and
Hmm.
Overwatch, um, I Hogwarts Legacy came out or for the early access, and that has been fun. I'm like 40 minutes in, so I can't really have an opinion on it yet, but so far it's nice. It's a Harry Potter game that isn't, you know, terrible. So that's new to me.
For anybody listening, we normally record this. We try to go and record between Friday through Sunday, and then I try to post it Monday through Wednesday, somewhere in that ballpark. We're recording this on Tuesday, the first day of early access for Hogwarts Legacy, because well, I'm lazy, so there was that. But yeah, Hogwarts Legacy, it's really good. I'm just shy of 4 hours. I think I finished at like 3 hours and 48 minutes because I use how long to beat and track my playtime if I can. And yeah, it's really good. It pretty much checks the boxes of if you're ever a Harry Potter fan and you imagined a video game where you could be in Harry Potter. That's basically what they put in a video game. It feels like every decision they made was what would a Potter fan want to do? It's in the game. Minus Quidditch, because, why? So he said Hogwarts Legacy and then your daily Dead by Daylight and Overwatch. Anything else?
I started playing WoW again, World of Warcraft, but I don't know how long lived that'll be. Not World of Warcraft Classic. I have not started Wrath of the Lich King. I think we're supposed to do that sometime this year. But
We will. We will.
I made a new character on uh, normal World of Warcraft, and I don't know if I can do it. There's so much content for me to have to try to learn about, and then all the new content that's happening. It's a lot. Trying to get into WoW nearly, I think like 15 years later is not fun. Actually, like 18 now. I think that game's as old as me.
It came out in like what, 2005 or was it
I think
2004?
2004. So yeah,
It's been a little
almost
while.
19. So
What do you think they're
it's
going to do
rough.
for a 20th anniversary?
I don't know, but it scares me. There's What have you been doing?
Well, what have I been doing? That's a good question. Like I said, Hogwarts Legacy, which is going to be our topic for next week. But it came out today. I played 4 hours this morning. Feeling pretty good about that. And I finished my battle pass for Overwatch 2, just in time for season 3. And I've gotten better and I've enjoyed the experience the more I've played. So there's that. And I have been playing a lot of Nier because this week is our first episode of the month. So our topic is our video game book club, which we're going to do monthly. And so if you don't remember or you didn't listen, because I'm the only one that listens, the first episode, we said we're going to pick a game we're going to recommend to each other so that we can experience new games. And Justin recommended that I play Nier Automata or Automata if you're wrong. So I started that early in the month, took a long break, went to start it again 2 weeks ago, and then I started having to travel for work. And so I had less access to my Xbox where I was playing it. So I kind of had to do a little bit of a binge this last week and hurry through the game so we could talk about it this week. So besides that, I also watched the Last of Us episode. Justin did not because he's a fake Naughty Dog fan.
Yeah.
Neil would be disappointed. Anything else reading wise, show wise, anything you've been doing, Justin, before we get to the main topic?
No, nothing new, nothing crazy.
Well, Nier Automata is a game. Let's. How do
And
I
that's
start
it. That's
this?
the end of the podcast. See you
So
next week.
yeah, let's talk about how much I actually got to play. So I did not do a billion and one endings. I played 1.5 playthroughs, and I did accidentally discover the G ending. So if you don't remember, the G ending is Justin. Did you ever get that?
Maybe. Know how
It's
minutes since
where
I
at the
played it.
very beginning of 9S's story, instead of going to help 2B, he just runs off. And so he just runs off and he says he can go study robots. And he's not going to help anymore. And then the credits roll. And I discovered that on accident because I thought I was going the right way. And all of a sudden I was not going the right way. And I got some credits. I was like, okay, that happened. And I had to replay the robot trying to wake up the other robot and then going to get a bucket where he has to like move super slowly. I had to replay that section. And I was a little annoyed in the moment, but it is what it is. But so I played 1.5 playthroughs. So the first playthrough, obviously we gave you the month to play it, and this game is also old. We will be spoiling it. I'm gonna try to avoid all like late game spoilers for like the future playthroughs until later, and we'll kind of give a warning. But yeah, for the first playthrough, I don't really consider it much of a spoiler. First playthrough you play as 2B. The second playthrough you start as 9S. Played through the entire first playthrough. Did a fair amount of side quests, but not a ton. I kind of kept with the level of the main story, but especially as I got on later on, I was like, okay, I gotta keep playing this game to talk about on this podcast. And so I did that. And then in the middle of 9S's, I kind of hit this wall where I was like, the story is really, really interesting, I think. Although it was interesting the first time around, there's still a ton of questions. But the second playthrough is a lot of the same as the first one. There's a little bit of difference, but it's a lot of the same, just from a different perspective. And I did not enjoy playing 9S as much as 2B. So it started to wear on me, and re-experiencing the same thing over again, I was like, you know what? I think I think I'm good. So I kind of drew the line at that point. This was also like late Saturday, so I'm like, all right, we're gonna record tomorrow. That didn't happen, but the plan was to record tomorrow. Hit the wall, and I said, all right, played as much of this game as I need to. I think it was like 15 hours or 20 hours or something like that. I was getting kind of sick of it. Part of it's like I was binging the game. Part of it was I was genuinely just not vibing with 9S. And so, yeah, I moved on and I watched some videos on the story. And I learned that the future playthroughs really are not the same as the first two playthroughs. So I kind of regret that. And for future, game of the month clubs, I kind of I regret my decision of not just, pulling through and playing through the rest of it and dealing with it. I guess this game is kind of a unique circumstance where it's like, oh, you got to play through it multiple times, as opposed to you get to the ending and there's one secret ending. It's like, no, there's a lot. But yeah, so that was my experience. I did not play through all of the second. I did play through the game one time, then 1.5, and it was really good. The combat was fun. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed some of the philosophies. I don't know anything about the original Nier. I didn't play Replicant. I didn't play the Drakengard series. I don't know anything that's going on from any of those. And from my understanding, those are very different games.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the experience that I had with the game, if I had to give a rating just off the bat, and I feel like this isn't justified for the sake of I didn't apologize. I didn't play the future endings, and so just from my brief experience with the game, I'm going to say about 8 out of 10. Where it was really good and the story was interesting, but I was just left like parts of it were confusing, and that's partly my fault. But I just didn't play. I didn't enjoy playing 9S. I didn't enjoy the hacking gameplay. I don't mind the alternate gameplays, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, I did not enjoy playing 9S with the one weapon and the focus on hacking and the retreading the same ground with a less interesting character, in my opinion, at least for the second playthrough's purposes. Justin, what is your experience with this game? Obviously, you've played it before, and you're the one that recommended it. What have you done before?
Well, I played it a little while ago, so I don't have as much of a fresh remembrance of the gameplay, but I thought the bullet hell sections, which is like 80% of the game, I thought they were really fun. I agree with what you said about 9S. I thought getting to his section of the game was just really boring. It was more slow than the entire first half of the game, and it was just such a drop off. I think it's a little bit shorter than 2B's section, thankfully. And I don't, it had a very minimal change to the first story. I could have gone without it as well, but I didn't mind it. I don't think I disliked it as much as you had with the hacking and all that.
I don't mind the hacking minigame. I really like the puzzle and like the bullet hell sections
Mm,
because this game, the way it just like takes your perspective and turns it into like a completely different, like a 2D game or a like I said, like a bullet hell 3D. You're just navigating the space and all these robots are spinning around. You're just shooting at them, but you have to avoid like the 2 billion projectiles on screen. I enjoyed that. And so like the hacking minigame itself was fun. I didn't mind like the puzzle of, oh, get to the end of this thing and blow it up real quick and all this other stuff. But my problem was just I didn't like that being the focus of the combat for him. And like I said, being limited to one weapon and just it wasn't as exciting. And like I said, we just retreading a lot of the story bits. I know there are a couple of small differences, and there's a couple of things that really set up the future gameplays, the future playthroughs, I guess is what you would call it. But just wasn't it wasn't vibing with me. And maybe now that I know kind of what the future gameplays would be, I think I would have rather pushed through and just experienced it myself. But it's kind of difficult getting past that hump. It was for me at least. So I'm sorry I cut you off. What you were talking about your experience? You didn't enjoy that. How long ago did you play this game?
it was probably like a year after release, so like 2018, sometime then. So it's been a hot minute.
And then
I did look up some
how many of the endings
summaries
did
to
you
refreshers.
experience?
I got A, B, C, D, and E. I just wanted to get through the main story, and E
Okay,
is the ending, like the
right.
gamer ending, the true ending. And that's
The
what I was
gamer
mostly
ending.
focusing on, yeah. I didn't get any of the random like eat a fish and die ending, which I think is like K or something.
Hmm. So how many did you do most of the side quests? Did you just kind of mainline the story when you played it?
I probably did like two side quests. I mostly cared about the story
Okay.
because I remember some bosses were actually kind of difficult without doing the side quests because I felt like under leveled at some stuff. But I just kind of dealt with it. I didn't want to do a lot of side quests mostly because it's distracted me from the main story because I didn't want to quit like an intense moment in the story to go
Yeah,
help some random
to
person.
do a parade or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you do that parade side quest or did you experience it at all?
I don't think I did, no.
That was a side quest. I think it becomes available to you like right after the ground implodes. You go through that whole like you fought the boss again and the city kind of caved in for part of it. I fought there was that one circus dude kind of on the edge of the circus and they want to do a peace parade. And so then your job is to escort them and try to make as many of them survive or if you can get at least one of them. And I think I was level like 13 and then when I started that side quest all the enemies that were spawning were like level 35 and were just destroying everything and I couldn't do anything. Did not enjoy that part at all. I didn't end up doing that side quest because again I was super underleveled and later on I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I did right off the bat go to the factory as soon as I spawned in the world, and I went and got the virtuous. They're all like virtuous. The this giant sword they had in the prequel portion, and the auto use health items. Super helpful in the beginning. It was very enjoyable. What kind of build did you go for, or do you remember? Like, were you aggressive? Were you defensive? What did you do here?
I don't remember my build. I probably just did something pretty standard, probably whatever the game like recommends. Nothing fancy.
So I think what I ended up doing, I guess I could speak to this a little bit more. I played it a little more recently as well. Um, I like how the menu's laid out, and they really kind of lean into the Android things. Like your upgrades and abilities are all like based on chips and slots
Mhm.
you can put together. And so I think what I ended up going for with my 2B build was I went for a very defensive. I had like healing items, so I increased my max health. I had the if you drop to a certain level of health, you healed at 20% greater and all this other stuff. Auto use items, and then I also used the if you hadn't taken damage within like 3 seconds, it starts auto healing you. And I put a lot into my ranged attack, so I would just kind of pelt the enemy from a distance. And then I had both of my weapons as heavy melee weapons. I have no idea what they were called. I think one was like the Beast Bane or something like that. And one of them for a good portion of the game was that starting sword from the prologue. And so I would pretty much like ping back and pelt them, and I used a lot of that laser special ability that you kind of just start the game with because it just went with what I was going for.
Mhm.
And then I would sneak in, and yeah, my the one heavy weapon had pretty much a direct vertical, only hits one enemy or a line of enemies, and the other one was the opposite, where it was only horizontal. It wasn't really a big slash, you know, for enemies above or anything. But that's how I kind of played the game, and I enjoyed it. Sadly, though, like I said, 9S didn't really cater to that play style at all. I could have made it work, but it just wasn't going well, and so that's another reason I didn't enjoy it. Um, I like the theming of like, oh, all your customization. There's no like cosmetics or anything, but the customization is Android based, where you're installing slots or building these things, these plug-in chips, and then combining these chips and fusing them together. And I kind of like that thematic part of it. It kind of sold me on the world itself, I guess. And that's actually a pretty good jumping point. What do you think about the world? It's like a smaller open world. But what did you think of that?
I liked it. I like how it was a post-apocalyptic looking thing. Something. It's very, you know, drab, kind of sad looking, but I thought the setting was done well, especially with how you're talking about the UI, how it was all Android themed. And I don't think it was like graphically amazing. I don't remember it too much, but not saying it was like ugly. I think especially certain parts of the game, I thought they were really beautiful. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
there are some sections that I agree are absolutely great. I really enjoyed the amusement park area.
Mhm.
Thought that place looked great. And I played this. You played it on Xbox One when it came to Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
So I bought the Yorha edition and like the Game of the Year one, and I was playing it on my Series X, and so I think that one's got some next gen upgrades. But I thought the game looked pretty good. Not nothing amazing, but pretty good.
Mhm.
What other worlds did you like, or is there anything that jumps out at you? Again, I know it's a little bit older for you, or it's fresh in my mind for me, but
I don't like you said the amusement park. I mostly remember the music in the amusement park being addicting at first. Kind of got annoying sooner or later, but it was very very good. I think the village. I'm sorry, I'm having like PTSD. I think it's Pascal is the character.
oh, Pascal's Village. I love the music when you're there when it's all
Yeah,
like peaceful and tranquil. Yeah,
I liked seeing all the different worlds, like the forest area. I think is there like a mall or something? I don't. Maybe
yeah.
that's
There's
too
a
Last of
shopping center
Us.
you go
I don't
through.
know. Yeah, I probably should have gone through and looked at more summaries, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, I thought all the worlds were good. I like the different. There's some parts of it that's like, oh, okay. I went through this one little tunnel, and all of a sudden the world is completely different. That felt a little disconnected.
Hmm.
Where it's like, oh, I went through this tunnel, and now there's a giant amusement park. Okay. And then like when you're leaving the amusement park to go to Pascal's Village, it's like, okay, you like walk on this bridge, and all of a sudden it slowly changes from this like used to be industrial, now it's this town square, to there's, one tree, two trees, three tree. Oh, now we're in a tree village. Like what? Like it kind of has a little bit of that that disconnect where it's like, oh, you just walk through this thing and all of a sudden you're in a completely different area. That doesn't fully make sense, but it is what it is. Even I guess going from the prologue, right? I remember going through that factory and that thing was huge. And when you return to the factory later in the game, it's also huge. But I remember going through a huge and fighting on that bridge, fighting the robot in the very beginning in the tutorial, which I guess I don't know if it's easier nowadays. I remember people were saying that used to be like really annoying fighting the first boss just to even get to the rest of the game. I didn't have too many problems. I had some problems at first realizing which button was dodge. Once I figured that out, like I don't think I died during that fight. I thought they tuned it down for, future updates and new additions, but regardless, like it felt like, oh man, this is a giant factory and this huge world and this and that. And then when you get into the open world and you can go pick up your stuff from the factory, I'm like, seriously, like this feels like so small compared to like the opening of the game, which I thought was just weird. And
Hmm.
I don't know, it kind of had that whole like, oh, we're just gonna like connect this giant desert next to this giant forest with a castle next to this giant city, all like, you know, a quarter mile away from each other. But besides that, yeah, they're all good. Some of them felt a little like wide open and vacant with not a lot to do. I can just think of I was climbing around in the city for a while, and it's like, yeah, there's like, a seedling or a broken key or whatever hiding out in just random corners sometimes, but there was not a lot meaningful. But it was enjoyable to at least get around, and it didn't really overstay its welcome. And then, yeah, the music, some of the music wasn't really vibing with. The I can think of the resistance camp and like some of the singing and the vocals. I was like, yeah, this isn't really fitting the mood of what's going on for me. And then there's other music like the Pascals or the amusement area. I was like, yeah, this is pretty sweet. I enjoy this. Another thing to talk about though, you are a little more into the Japanese style art and direction and whatnot. Um, there is an element of yes, sexy androids, right? Like this is like even there was a moment where I was there's several moments actually where I was just like, this is really awkward, and like there were times that my wife would walk by and I'd be like, just ignore what's happening, please. And then there, like especially at the very end of the game, I guess this will be light spoilers, but again, this is the first playthrough's ending where 2B has to kill 9S because he's infected.
Mm.
And so, like, you know, anime android, girl with the upskirt or whatever, uh, gets on top of him in a really awkward position and then, like, chokes him out. And, like, if you're not, if you don't know what's going on and you're just listening, it definitely, like, you hear, like, moaning and, like, noises that are a little off putting. And that being said, I played this all in English. I don't know if it's better with Japanese and then subtitled, but this was all in English, so I was like, this is awkward. But then it was also like if my wife walked by and then just saw what was happening, it's just anime girl with again. There were some shots where it's like you're just exposing everything. Like there's not the skirt is covering nothing here, but it was a little not something I'm used to. And again, my wife would have had some very serious questions for me and would have taken me to church to repent for whatever I just experienced after she had seen that. No, it's definitely yeah, that was a different experience for me. Not to say it's bad if you like that or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just it was something that I wasn't used to. Maybe I'm just talking out of turn, but maybe I'm just not cultured, I guess. But yeah, a little weird sometimes. Just my opinion. Did you have any, or do you even remember anything of that nature?
I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because the story of the game's pretty serious and it tackles like philosophy and deep philosophy. And while you're going over these really poetic and dark sometimes like themes, it's just some anime girl in a really short skirt with awkward anime girl sounds. I didn't really have a problem with it. I don't play a lot of JRPGs in the first place. This one, I don't know how similar it is to other ones, but I know the story is different. That's mostly what I cared about when playing this game, hence my lack of side questing. But I don't know, I just thought it was kind of funny with the setting, but I didn't really have a problem with it.
Yeah, and I know that's fairly standard for a lot of like JRPGs where things are a little more exposed than things would be, that were made here in the West, I guess. Um, like, like I think of some of the characters in Street Fighter, where I'm like, huh, showing a lot here. Like, what's the isn't it like Mika or something? One of the fighters in Street Fighter. You know what I'm talking about? The
Yeah.
wrestler girl. Yeah, where I'm like, this is,
Like Rainbow
you know,
Mika.
yeah, yeah. Where it's like, yeah, I get it's standard over there, and I just don't play a lot of those games, and so maybe I'd be more used to it. But uh, yeah, I wasn't used to it, and that didn't detract from the game or anything. It was awkward, but like I still enjoyed the game. It was that doesn't factor into like anything I would if I was giving it a score or whatever. Which, like I said, it'd be about 8 out of 10 ish. Um, maybe 8.5, I'd say. That wouldn't have factored whatsoever. It was just my experience, and then, like I said, my wife walked by a couple times. It was like, yeah, what you doing there? Like, so. Well, I don't. I guess combat's the only other thing to mention. It gives you a variety of options with weapons and fighting styles, and like you can even customize different pods that you can switch to. So you can just switch like, oh, for this enemy, I'm going, lighter attacks, more quick, aggressive, or you can have heavy or whatever. I didn't really play around with it too much. I kind of picked a style that I liked. I did try a couple of them, but only for like a couple fights, and then I kind of narrowed down what I really enjoyed about the game. But I do like the options and the variety they offered, and you can kind of join in with later games or with the later playthroughs, I guess, and mix it up. But you also have different characters to consider. So without anything else before spoilers, was there anything you wanted to add before we kind of just start diving into the later playthroughs?
No, I guess if we're talking like the combat, it changes a lot, which I guess is something that you didn't really like with 9S. I didn't care for it either. But I also thought it kept it interesting going through with the game, especially when some of the game can repeat itself. I think it changes itself a lot, which it doesn't feel like you're playing the same thing, even though you are story wise. The game can go from bullet hell to some weird mini game for hacking to something completely different in a matter of like 30 seconds in one boss fight, which I don't know. I thought that was really cool. It kept it a fun and a different kind of pace than most games.
Yeah, that is a good point. I did enjoy. I know I mentioned this briefly. I did enjoy the bullet hell. I enjoyed the 2D parts. I enjoyed the variety of gameplay options that were on hand, and outside of the switching characters, um, it definitely kept the pace going. I did appreciate that and the way they just handled some of the fights. There's only one part in blah, blah. There's only one part in particular that I didn't appreciate with the bullet hell because like the angle was just weird. And that was when you're fighting like the giant worm thing in the ocean.
Hmm.
Um, that thing got on my nerves. But
I think you have to fight that thing again as A2.
yeah. Oh gosh, you said something that jogged my memory, and I was like, oh yeah, talk about this thing. Oh, I remember now. I do have there's one critique I have in it. I understand thematically, that's the whole point. That's what you're doing. It is what it is. I wish the enemy variety. I know it grows a little bit from playthrough to playthrough, but part of why I got sick of playing in 9S is I was like, all right, I'm done looking at these robots. I get the whole thing is like androids versus machines, and again that plays into a whole spoiler thing later. But there's the couple boss fights that happen, and they're animals you can kind of kill in the overworld. But that was something that eventually I got sick of as well. That I didn't think the variety by that point in the game was really expanding enough for me to want to continue. And I was like, all right, you got the tall robots, you got the little robots, you got the robots with shields, you got the flying robots, and then the four person or the four corner flying robots. And I felt like I just was getting really sick of fighting the similar enemies over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, so there was that, and I can't really think of a way to change that. I mean, maybe just a couple more options or some stylized things. I get that thematically, you're fighting robots. That is what it is. And that in the later playthrough, they do add some more enemies, and I didn't really do like the Emil side quest or anything. But I recognize that, like, yes, things change later on. But up until a playthrough and a half, I was just so sick of fighting the same robots. And then I guess what we will throw out the boss fights were enjoyable. That I think they weren't difficult in my experience. Once I mean, it's like any boss fight. You learn the routine, and once you've kind of nailed down what they do every time, every single time, then you know what to do. Then you kind of rinse repeat until they're dead. Uh, I don't really have much more to add. Some of them were interesting and thematically they were pretty good and in different set pieces. Even like the basic giant titans, I enjoyed those. The boss fights were good. Did you have anything to add in that case?
Boss fights, not really. I need to look back at the bosses. I just know a lot of the bosses that I remember were mostly for the story, or I guess I think the Simone one. I remember that having to do with the soundtrack of the game, how the song that plays when you're fighting it is synced with whatever the boss does. The one at the amusement park, I think, with the
Mm,
dress and the weird lasers and shit.
yeah, the
I don't know.
singer.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. Again, I don't think it was very hard. I don't know if I was playing on like easy or something, but I thought it was enjoyable going against it. It wasn't challenging though.
Yeah, and I played through the game on normal or medium or whatever the basic one is, not easy and not the difficult. I don't know
Hmm.
if there was a difficult option. I don't remember. I assume you did the same. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, let's jump into some spoilers here. So if you want to experience this for yourself and you haven't,
Go away.
yeah, you know, you can watch for the draft later. But yeah, so there are five endings, and really the first two are similar enough, more of the same. The later endings, though, the story just continues. Like it actually,
Hmm.
yeah, goes quite a bit. I'm going to summarize what I can understand of it, and then you can fill in the blanks because I think you actually experienced it all to the best of your ability, I guess. So, from my understanding, the game continues, and they launch like a military strike or whatever happens, where they go down there and 2B's injured, but then this like red eye virus starts infecting all the androids, and they all get wonky, and you have to start killing them, and then you go up to command, and then you try to save the commander, and everybody up there gets wonky, so on and so forth. Um, and just as push comes to shove, 2B gets infected. Who was the other main character?
A2.
Yes, A2 has to kill her. 9S wants revenge. There's this tower that's going to try to send information elsewhere. I'm really summarizing a lot of it now that I realize it. Like, there's a lot more nuance to all of this, but more or less, you go through. A2 continues on her journey. 9S continues on his. 9S is searching for revenge and also just kind of gone crazy and unhinged and breaking protocols. Um, A2 is kind of discovering more things. They eventually fight. In one ending, A2 hacks into 9S and kind of saves him. In the true ending, they kill each other. That's a very basic dumbed down version of everything that happens. But thematically, it breaks down into the androids and the machines are really part of the same. They're actually just created by these two intellectual beings to fight to continue to grow and develop since the humans and the aliens were dead the whole time. And it becomes a construct of, is there a god? How do they handle it? They all focused on uh, how humans handled, you know, I guess existence itself and existential things. And the true ending, I believe they shoot things out of the tower to space to try to continue their expansion and development of knowledge.
Mm.
And also in the true ending, the pods that are with each character develop their own sentience and begin to rebuild those characters and continue a cycle or uh, grow out of a cycle and allow 2B and 9S and 2A or A2 to live on and continue to develop on their own, their sentience and their existence. It's all very philosophical, way more than we can explain in a podcast. But that was the best I had, and really, I just kind of butchered that. Go play this game for yourself. Justin, how about you try to explain whatever I just mumbled out of my mouth?
Well, really, it's just kind of the entire game is being told. You don't really understand everything through the first ending or playthrough or through 2B. You're just kind of playing a fun little weird robot anime game, and it gets progressed through uh, what's it 9S's story, even though it's less fun to play because he has, less gameplay things. You go through the same, boss fights and mini boss and same areas, but you start learning new things or new motives and new personalities about the people you already fought. And you just kind of learn more about stuff that you already did. And that kind of changes with the third, fourth, and I think fifth endings because there's like 26 different endings and all of them are most of them are just kind of random, but there's like five that are actually have to do with the story. Uh, I think ending C is when it starts changing and you start getting into the new territory and you start progressing with what you said, how their 2B gets infected and has to get killed and 9S wants revenge. You start It's hard to explain. There's a lot that's happening way too much, like you said, for the podcast, but you start learning more motives and what each character wants. And there's a lot of philosophy, big words that I cannot explain to you because I don't know anything about philosophy. But a random boss fight you do at the beginning of the game turns into something big that was studied a long time ago for no reason out of nowhere in your weird anime game. It's a lot, and I don't know. I think it's cool how you go from fighting these weird robots that don't really have much of personality to learning just a shit ton about this random world that you're exploring and trying not to die in, and you're running for your life from these cute little robots that want to end androids.
Yeah, I uh, I don't know where to add to that. It's a complex game.
It's
You know, it
there's a
it can
lot happening all at once.
it contextualizes a lot. It really breaks down everything you do, which is where like everything you do kind of matters, for the most part. And so like it's fun. It's great to explore. It's great to understand. Um, it's hard to just without having if you're listening, like you really need to try it for yourself and experience it. Um, the only problem I think what would bring the game down for me, and what does bring it down for me in my about 8.5 out of 10 if I had to score it, is purely the fact that not everything is as fun to play, and that's just specifically from my experience. 9S and some of it can become tedious. At some point, you're doing the same thing over and over again, and when you're asked to replay the game over and over again, even with the additional story context, which is the driving force, the gameplay context can be a drag. I guess I would put it. I just the philosophical story side of things is what matters and why this game is super great in the eyes of many. And I would remark this as a great game as well. But I just think the gameplay wise, and this is not even to say the combat's bad. The combat is great. It's a good Platinum's game. It is Platinum, right? They worked on this.
What I believe so.
Okay, it's a good combat game. Like it's a fun game. I guess I don't have that same appeal, and maybe there's probably an element of mastering, like a lot of Platinum games, mastering the combat, right? Really nailing in those combos and that flow of motion and being able to evade and counter and all this other stuff. Uh, it wasn't clicking with me when you're fighting the same thing for multiple playthroughs of a game, and those playthroughs get faster and faster, but it wasn't fast enough for me. I guess I would say I got bored of some of the combat, especially when you scaled from 2B to 9S. And so, yeah, philosophically, there's so many things to put into words. There's so many side stories. Emil's side story, which I assume he's the Emil from the original Nier, which is its own thing. And I didn't play Nier Replicant. I don't know anything about that one either. Um, Devila and Popola, those are also characters from the original Nier. There's a lot that goes into this, and so like I also went through and watched a video on Drakengard and how that kind of played into Nier. I watched a recap of the original Nier and how that affects Nier Automata and Replicant. It's a great story. I don't think watching a YouTube video is the way to experience the story. I just wish I enjoyed getting through the story itself in the game a little bit more. But I highly recommend it. If you're listening, you should go play that game. Go check it out. It's not on Game Pass anymore, I don't believe. Because if it was, then I bought the game and wasted money. Pretty sure it wasn't on Game Pass, at least not at the time of this recording. It has been in the before. Yes, it has been before. It probably will be again at some point in the future. You should check it out if it does. And I can't say anything about the original Nier. I know that one wasn't reviewed as well. And I also can't say anything about Nier Replicant. But I don't think you can either. You haven't played those, right?
I have not played any more Nier games, no.
They're yeah. I watched a recap for, like I said, the recap of everything that's relevant to Automata. So I don't know anything about the Drakengard games. I don't know anything about Nier or Nier Replicant. Tis interesting though. I highly recommend it. I might go back at some point and try to experience the story since I was only so far away from, getting to some of the more exciting stuff. But Hogwarts Legacy came out, and I also bought Dead Space, and I haven't played that yet because I was playing Nier. So there's some stuff to do. Any closing comments on Nier before we move on?
No, I feel like we summarize as much as we can. It's a big game.
It's a big game, and we're dumb gamers, so we can't really
Yeah.
explain too much. Well then, we're gonna draft. So I did not do my usual thing where I wrote down all kinds of options and then specified exactly what I want. So I'm gonna wing it, but we're also gonna do 5. We're not gonna do 6 rounds, just because in my head I was doing the math and I'm like, I feel like 12 might be a lot of drinks. I don't know. We can go 6 rounds if we get to that point where we're like, maybe there's a couple more. But we are drafting the best beverages to have while gaming. So what drinks are great to have on hand when you're playing games? A couple rules: soda is not just one thing. If you draft Coca-Cola, that's different from drafting Sprite or root beer or Mountain Dew or so on and so forth. We're not doing like Coke Cherry versus Coke or something like that. Um, I guess I would also argue, if Justin drafts Coke, I can't draft Pepsi. That's basically the same thing, just a worse brand.
No, they are not the same thing.
Same type of soda.
Dark soda, those are no.
Okay,
Coke and
well, Justin
Pepsi are
disagrees.
two very different things.
Okay,
I make the rules here.
let's see. Who went first last week? Justin went first last week. So it looks like I have the first pick. And actually, I don't know what I want for the first pick. Hold on. What would be the best thing to have? Best thing to have while drinking. Oh, well playing
What?
gaming, yes.
Drinking.
All right. I don't think I've had this in a while while gaming, but there's a reason. There's a reason this is, one half of the meme of what a gamer eats and drinks. You got to go with Mountain Dew as the number one, right?
That's disgusting.
Mountain Dew is
No.
absolutely the number one pick. Like there's no question about it. That's I mean, when you think of it, you got the Code Red, you got like the Halo 3 and the Call of Duty and all the other partnerships that have ever been with Mountain Dew for gaming. Mountain Dew is also great because you can go to Taco Bell late at night when you're gaming. You get some Baja Blast Mountain Dew. It's the best gaming drink. I personally can't say I've had it in like the last year when I'm gaming. I've had Mountain Dew, only Baja Blast, but
Don't drink a lot of it.
well,
You'll
yeah,
probably die.
don't drink too much of any one of these things. But
Yeah.
I think Mountain Dew is the number one. Just it may not be my number one, but I think it is the number one. So Justin, what's your first round pick here?
I mean, mine's simple. I was just gonna say water. Something you can drink. Mostly because
Basic.
you need to drink more water, especially when you're gaming. If you're hardcore gaming, you're playing like 8 hours of whatever the hell, and you're drinking Mountain Dew that entire 8 hours, you're no.
Okay,
Get
Justin,
you some water.
what is more common for you to drink? Some sort of pop or water while you're gaming?
Powerade, because it's sugary. I like me some sugar. It's not good for you, but sugar. And it has taste.
Fine. Okay. Well,
And you
what's your
can put
second
things
pick?
in water. You can put like Mio in water, get some vitamin stuff if you want taste. Drink more water, gamers. That's the point of this.
Drink more water gamers. Okay.
Yup.
What's your second pick?
Second pink, uh, uh, it's monster. Don't drink more of that. But if you are gaming for 8 hours and you've hit like 4 in the morning, you hear birds chirping, you got to go to work soon because you didn't sleep. You're too busy playing, I don't know, COD,
Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah. And now you got to go to work. You just drink some monster. You won't feel better, but you'll probably be a wee bit less tired for like an hour maybe. If you're gaming in the late hours, some nice monster helps for a little bit.
It's not a bad pick, but I'm going to go with my next pick then for my second round pick. This is something that I even had gaming this morning because I don't game into the wee hours. However, I do get up in the wee hours, and sometimes if I don't have to work, I game. And what do you drink when you get up in the morning when you're tired? You get some good old coffee. Coffee is the second pick because, yeah, some of us are old. We don't have the energy that you do. We get up in the morning and we want to do things, and our bodies say no. So we just drug ourselves with caffeine in this putrid tasting liquid. But it keeps us going. It's good to go. I have my Ember mug right next to my keyboard. I drink coffee. I have coffee right next to me. My Ember mug is still on because I was drinking it this morning, playing Hogwarts Legacy. Coffee is the way to go. That is, it's probably healthier than Monster. Actually, that's not even a probably. It is healthier than Monster. So you got to get up in the morning, like Justin said, go to work. It's not going to do as much for you as Monster, but it's going to not kill you as fast as Monster. So, coffee. And also, let's say you're an adult gamer and you had your coffee in the morning, you went to work all day, and it sucked. All right. What do you do when you get home? You get a beer, and you can play some video games. You progressively get worse over time the more you drink, but it's worth it because you're chillaxing until you can't hit your shots anymore. Then you're getting pretty angry. It does happen. It's happened to me. You get several beers in, all of a sudden you're just playing like trash. You probably need to go to bed, but you're gonna keep gaming anyways. But beer in the 1 to 4 range, depending on what you're drinking, beer is the go-to as a good beverage while you're gaming. I know you can't really speak to that one, so because you're a child.
Correct. Is it my pick next?
It is. Here's your 3rd round pick.
I am going to say what I normally drink most of the time, which is a nice Powerade slash, I guess I won't, Powerade slash Gatorade, but mostly
Yeah, you can
Powerade
take them
because that's
both.
what I drink. I think they're like the same drink, but it's sugary. I mostly do it because I have problems with dehydration. I need to drink more sugary things. But if you like something that's has a taste and you're sick of drinking water because you don't like being healthy, some nice Powerade is a good alternative. It's not healthy, but there's a zero sugar option, I guess. Still not very healthy.
Yeah, I can't.
For
I don't remember the last time I've even had a Powerade or a Gatorade. They're good. They're perfectly fine. All right, Justin, you have a 4th round pick.
I am going to say a nice tea, and that could be warm or hot tea. I don't know if you want to
So
count like
so
an
you can
Arnold
go
Palmer
hot
or
tea.
something.
No,
Yeah,
Arnold Palmer's a
tea
whole
isn't.
separate category. Are you going hot tea or are you going like an iced tea or a sweet tea?
They're separate.
Iced and sweet tea can be the same. I think Arnold Palmer is different enough. That should be a separate category. But yeah, Earl Grey, like a hot tea that you steep with bags versus like getting a sweet tea from Kroger. I think those are very
Yeah,
different. So which one are you going with?
I meant like the hot tea
Hot tea. Okay.
because it's nice and less caffeine than coffee. It's like coffee, but the alternative, you're not getting much caffeine. You're probably not staying awake, but it's nice to have. There are healthy teas though, I guess. So suck it, coffee nerds.
Let's see
Okay,
how it
next
is.
pick. Yeah,
You don't have much more to say. You don't even drink that much tea, do you?
I do, but not as much. That's because I don't. I just don't wake up in the morning. I stay up late, and then I wake up at like noon.
It is
I'm not a
fair.
morning person.
All right. My 4th round pick. I think we're gonna do 5 rounds just because you do start to run out of options. But I am a man of class, and on occasion, I drink G Fuel. So
Oh God.
I'm gonna go with G Fuel. I do think any respected gamer or disrespected gamer uh, has tried G Fuel at least once. I tried it at E3. Actually, it was the first time. That was pretty all right. So I ordered some. I've had it on my shelf for many. I think I had it on my shelf for like a year before I remembered that I ordered some. So I've it does expire at some point at the end of this year. So I've actually been drinking it now. So but yeah, I mean it's like pre-workout for gaming. And
Disgusting.
I don't know, it's actually
Never
like it
use
tastes
that
fine.
analogy again.
Yeah, well, you add it to water. It's pretty good. They have different flavors. Nowadays they also have like just canned drinks that you would order as opposed to I think you can actually get it in some grocery stores. I don't know where. Not here. I know I've seen it online though somewhere. But and the pre-canned stuff, not like the mix. To my knowledge, I could be completely talking out of nothing. Yeah, G Fuel, the gamer drink. I'm gonna go with that. And for my 5th round pick, I need to think for a moment. What, I was going to sit down and play a video game. What would be the best final option? You took water from me. You know what? I'm going to go with a good sweet tea. You get some, I don't know where you get it from. We would typically get it from Kroger, where we're from. But of course, you can get it elsewhere. You can get, I don't really care. Is it like Pure Leaf, right? That's the brand.
Yeah.
I'm actually not as big a fan of their sweet tea. I think the extra sweet is too much and the regular sweet is too little. But Kroger sweet tea is pretty phenomenal. Or just sweet tea in general. You get it from some Chick-fil-A or some McDonald's. Sweet tea. It's pretty good. I think I also think I'd rather have that than hot tea, because if I'm having hot tea, I'd rather have coffee. So sweet tea it is. Which leaves you with one pick, Justin. What is your final pick?
Uh, I'm gonna say hot chocolate. It might not be the best if you're already staying in like a warm area or if it's not cold where you're at, but if it is cold, you're in the nice winter time. Some hot chocolate, get some marshmallows. Put that in there. It's beautiful. I don't know how well it mixes with gaming, but it's
I feel like
nice and
it's got to be
cozy. Maybe you're
difficult to
sitting
drink.
down playing
I feel
some.
like you get it on you and it gets sticky. If it
Okay,
touches your
maybe you're
controller,
just
then you're.
playing some Animal Crossing and you want some hot chocolate, and you're
That's right.
playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. Want some hot chocolate. You have to be playing Valorant with your hot chocolate. And Hogwarts Legacy with your pumpkin juice. Drink some of that. Get some immersion.
Trying to imagine
So
now, just Valorant and hot chocolate.
yeah.
Hardcore gamers, that's what they do.
They drink hot chocolate.
Going to esports tournament, that's what they have up there. Sometimes they have like Red Bull or whatever. Nope, just chugging a hot chocolate. All right, well, we'll read the list. Justin, you have water, Monster, Powerade/Gatorade, hot tea, and hot chocolate. I have Mountain Dew, coffee, beer, G Fuel, and sweet tea. Mountain Dew was the only pop that was on the list. Or soda, if you're weird. Or I guess Coke if you're in the South and you're wrong. But yeah, I could have swore you would have taken Coke at some point, but you did not.
Basic.
I did want water. You took that first round. I'm just baffled. Monster was also on my list to take. Other things I was thinking about taking that didn't make it on the list: Arnold Palmer, iced tea. I thought about wine. I would not have drafted just like straight liquor. Just doing shots while you're gaming. No, it's a bad idea. But I thought about wine, kind of in the same context as like the hot chocolate, where it's like get some Animal Crossing, drinking some wine. It's peaceful. Maybe even like Breath of the Wild if you're just exploring or some game like that. I don't know. I don't think there was any other major drinks that popped up. I also didn't do a lot of research, so maybe I'm gonna look it up immediately after and be like, "What the heck? Why didn't I think of that?" But did you have anything else on your list that you could think of?
No, I ran out of options after water. I didn't know what to say.
After water. Oh, Red Bull and like Rockstar and those like other energy drinks were in consideration, but not really something I was jumping at. Well, that is the end of the podcast. Justin, do you have any closing comments or thoughts or concerns or so on and so forth? Oh, wait a minute. We have something important to do. Uh, you chose the game for January. It is my turn to pick a game that you must play over February. And so I don't think you've played these games. If you have, you've only played the originals. And I don't know how to allude to it. It's one of my favorites. It's from a game studio that you've played several of their games and enjoyed. But I'll give you a hint. It is Insomniac. Do you know what games I'm talking about?
I don't know the game specific, but I know what Insomniac makes.
I'm going to have you play Spyro the Reignited trilogy over February.
Hmm.
They're not long games. Really, the first two. You can play the third one if you so choose. The third one, I mean, I would recommend playing it, but if you don't get to it, at least the first two. They're not very long, so it's not like you're going to be having to invest 40 hours per game or something like that. But yeah, Spyro the Dragon, and then Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and then Year of the Dragon if you get to it. Great games. Love those. Played them as a kid. I don't think did you ever play those?
No.
Yeah, so classic platformers remade for modern consoles. I made sure to purchase it on used. I tried going to Replay in Toledo, and they did not have it, so I just ordered it online because I didn't want to spend $40 for a new copy at GameStop. So I will drop that off to you because I didn't want to buy it digitally either. It was like 40 or $60 or something stupid. I think it was 40. Sorry, I'm yawning. Ah! Anyways, yeah, the Reignited trilogy. The first two games really good. Third one also pretty good. Just got different. Introduced new characters. Arguably the only good Spyro games. I haven't played the Legend of Spyro games, so I can't speak to those, but yeah. Do you have any thoughts on those games or concerns of what I've just subjected you to?
I've only ever seen you play these games. So I have, and that's been very little. So I have no idea what to get into.
Well, I will drop that off at some point today. Obviously, you have the whole month to play it. Hogwarts Legacy just came out. I'm not expecting you to drop that and play Spyro right now. But yeah, that's the goal. That's the plan. And we'll talk about that the first episode of March. I don't know what the date is, and I'm not going to look at the calendar because it's behind the microphone right now. So, with that, do you have any closing thoughts, comments, concerns from this podcast? Any closing comments on Nier?
No, fun game. Play it, buy it, give them your money.
Yes, highly recommend it. And hopefully we see. Obviously, I don't think there would be a direct sequel, but I would like to see another Nier game in the future. That's not a remake. Well, if that is all, uh, join us next week. I'm going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy. And with that, all I got to say is Gibby.